May 10, 1996. Somewhere near the roof of the world, at 29,000 feet, a man is dying. But before the storm, before the chaos, before the world would know his name as a symbol of Everest's deadly power, Scott Fischer had a fear. It wasn't the altitude, the avalanches, or the crevasses. It was something much more personal. His greatest fear, he once confessed, was making a bad decision and dying in the mountains, leaving my kids without a dad. That scares me. In the thin, freezing air of the death zone, that fear was about to become a devastating reality. This is the tragic, true story of Scott Fischer, the visionary climber who conquered the world's highest peaks, only to be conquered by the mountain he loved. This is the story of the 1996 Everest disaster. Scott Fischer was born on Christmas Eve, 1955, in New Jersey. But his soul belonged to the mountains. The call to the wild came in 1970, when a teenage Scott and his father watched a documentary about the National Outdoor Leadership School, NOLS. That film, showcasing the rugged beauty of Wyoming's Wind River Range, was a lightning bolt. He enrolled immediately, and a legend was in the making. Scott spent years honing his craft in the Rockies and the Cascades, transforming from an inspired teenager into a force of nature on vertical rock and ice. By 1990, he was on the international stage, part of the first American team to summit the world's fourth highest peak, Lhotse. But it was his 1992 ascent of K2, the Savage Mountain, that truly defined his caliber. He climbed it without supplemental oxygen, a feat of pure physiological and mental power that placed him among the elite. In 1984, Fischer, along with Wes Krauss, founded Mountain Madness. It wasn't just a guiding company, it was an extension of his philosophy. He saw guiding as a conduit for personal transformation. His charisma was magnetic. He didn't just want to get clients to the summit, he wanted them to discover something about themselves along the way. In 1994, he finally stood on top of the world, summiting Mount Everest. But for a man like Scott, the personal summit wasn't enough. He wanted to share that feeling. He wanted to bring others with him. It was a decision that would set the stage for the spring of 1996. By April 1996, Everest Base Camp was a small, international city. Among the dozens of teams was Scott Fischer's Mountain Madness expedition. His team was a merry band, 19 people in total, including 3 guides, 8 paying clients, and 8 Sherpa. They were sharing the mountain with another high-profile commercial expedition led by Fischer's friendly rival, Rob Hall of Adventure Consultants. Hall was known as the man-eater of Everest for his reliability. Fischer was the charismatic, adventurous counterpart. The plan was simple: work together, avoid the crowds, and get everyone up and down safely. But the mountain was already crowded. The pre-monsoon season had drawn an unusually high number of climbers. The route through the Khumbu icefall was a ladder-clad nightmare. The line to the top was becoming a traffic jam. For weeks, the teams acclimatized, climbing from Camp 2 to the South Col and back, building their bodies' tolerance to the lethal lack of oxygen. They were waiting for the perfect window. And on May 9th, it seemed to have arrived. The forecasts promised clear skies. The summit bid was a go. Just after midnight on May 10th, a line of headlamps began to crawl upwards from the south. Colonel Fischer's team, led by himself and guides Neil Beidelman and Anatoly Bukriv, was on the move. The goal, the summit, 9 hours above them. But from the start, things went wrong. There were no fixed ropes in place at a crucial section. A group of climbers from another expedition was moving slowly ahead, creating a bottleneck. Fischer's team and Hall's team, climbing together, found themselves waiting. And waiting. In mountaineering, time is not just money, time is oxygen. Time is life. There's a sacred rule on Everest: the turnaround time. For most expeditions, it's 2 p.m. No matter how close you are, you turn back. It ensures you have enough daylight and oxygen to get down. But as the clock ticked past 2 p.m., climbers were still pushing for the top, blinded by the summit fever. Scott Fischer, usually a powerhouse, was struggling. He hadn't been feeling well for days. Finally, at 3:45 p.m., nearly 2 hours after the safe turnaround, he stood on the summit. He stayed for barely 15 minutes. He was tired. He was sick. And as he looked at the horizon, he knew the mountain was about to change. The descent began, and with it, the mountain awakened. The storm that had been predicted for later arrived early. A brutal blizzard engulfed the upper slopes, dropping temperatures to -40 degrees Fahrenheit and reducing visibility to zero. The climbers, strung out along the ridge, were fighting for their lives in a whiteout. Fischer was in trouble. The combination of exhaustion, altitude, and the onset of cerebral edema was slowing him to a crawl. His lead Sherpa, Lhotse Jangbu, stayed with him, trying to drag him down. But near the south col, at around 27,000 feet, Scott Fischer collapsed. He could go no further. Lhotse was prepared to die with his friend. He wanted to hunker down and wait out the storm. But Fischer, knowing he was a dead weight, made a final, selfless decision. He convinced Lhotse to leave him and go down to save himself and alert the others. Down at Camp 4, Russian guide Anatoly Bukreev was performing miracles, going out alone into the night to rescue stranded climbers. But when he finally reached Scott Fischer, it was too late. Bukreev later wrote, "His oxygen mask is around his face, but the bottle is empty. He is not wearing mittens, his hands are completely bare. His down suit is unzipped, pulled off his shoulder. There is nothing I can do. Scott is dead." It was a sign of paradoxical undressing, a final, tragic stage of severe hypothermia where the body's systems fail, making a person feel as if they are burning up. Near the South Col, at 40 years old, Scott Fischer's greatest fear had come true. When the sun rose on May 11th, the mountain revealed its toll. 8 climbers from 4 expeditions were dead, including Rob Hall and Scott Fischer. It was the deadliest day in Everest's history to that point. The world would come to know the story through the eyes of John Krakauer, a journalist and client on Rob Hall's team, whose best-selling book, Into Thin Air, became a definitive account. Years later, Hollywood brought the tragedy to the big screen in the film Everest, introducing a new generation to Scott Fischer and the impossible choices made that day. And Scott Fischer? His body remains on Everest, moved slightly off the main route by Bukreev. He rests near the South Col, in the cold he once loved, a permanent guardian of the mountain's highest reaches. He left behind his 2 children, fulfilling the very fear he'd spoken of. But he also left behind a legacy of passion, of a life lived at full throttle, and a reminder that even the strongest among us can be humbled by the mountains we seek to conquer. His spirit, and his story, remain on Everest forever. May he rest in peace. Thanks for watching. And remember, whether you're climbing mountains or climbing the ladder of life, always respect the thin air. If you enjoyed this story of survival, courage, and mystery, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest adventures, and let me know in the comments.